The funny thing about engagement too is it has very little correlation, I've found, with actual sales. Like the things that get the most likes are often never the things that are actually going to get you paid in a business. It's the things that nobody, like I get very little engagement on a lot of my stuff, but I know the person who reaches out to me because I hear it from people. They're like, oh my God, I've been watching you for months. And like, they'll never comment. They'll never engage.
But they watch.
So they're watching.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another knowledge bomb episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Jason Moss. And if this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that like button, hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of these amazing episodes. And if you're on iTunes, go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps get the word out to great leaders and entrepreneurs like yourself. Please help me welcome Jason with Level Up Your Personal Brand. This is Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
I remember when I was 13 years old, I was a big computer nerd. And I used to love playing video games. And I used to play, I would lock myself in my room and I'd spend hours playing these games on the computer. But what used to drive me crazy was in order to play your favorite games, you'd have to find the CD. And you have to put the CD in the computer. And I'm probably dating myself here. There's some people who are probably listening to this that are like, what's a CD? But
I remember.
But this used to drive me crazy because I would have to hunt for it and it'd be like in the couch cushion in between two couch cushions. I could never find the thing. And so one summer growing up, I decided to make a software program. And I learned how to program mostly, by the way, while I was in the bathroom. I used to read programming books that was who I was. That was the weird breed that I was. My mom was like, it's been an hour in the bathroom. What are you doing in there? Learn how to program, Mom. Mm-hmm. So anyways, I learned how to program and I created this software program that made it so that you didn't have to put in the CDs when you play your favorite games. It would trick the computer into thinking the CD was in the drive. And I spent a summer creating this. And at that time, I didn't really know much about online marketing because I was 13. But I asked my dad, I said, hey, Dad, can you set up a payment processor for me? Because I couldn't do it myself. I couldn't sign for it. And he was gracious enough to set it up. And I'll never forget one day opening up my inbox and seeing that email come in, you've made a sale. The first official sale. I was like 13 years old. And in that moment, something changed for me. It was this realization of, wow, like I can connect with this random stranger on the other side of the world. I can create an experience through something that I've created that helps make their life better. And they can also give back to me and we can have this moment of connection where both of us walk away better off. What an amazing thing that we get to do this through the power of this tool, the internet. And so it's been decades since then, but that passion that was originally ignited under me from that first moment of that first sale online has really carried me through. And I've just become so obsessed with online marketing, with helping people connect and make the kind of impact they want to make on the world through this amazing tool that we have, and through really studying the art and the science of how to sell, how to do that effectively, and how to share our gifts, whether it's coaching or consulting or services or courses, with the world. So that is the work that I do today. And I'm grateful to be leading a community with thousands of online business owners where every day I get to wake up and help people learn how to do that more effectively so they can increase their income and also make a bigger impact and also experience on a deeper level more freedom in their lives so that growing the business doesn't have to be stressful and overwhelming. I mean, what I really teach people is how to build personal brands. Because I think the power that we have in terms of really being able to stand out online, especially with everything that's happening with AI, and I mean, we have so many things are changing. But the thing that really creates magnetism and draws people to you is you. It's your
Mm.
humanity. It's who you are. And so many people, who are in the brick and mortar space, maybe you've been successful locally and maybe you haven't put yourself out and on the front lines. Maybe some people know who you are, but maybe you play more of a behind the scenes role. But really, the most successful entrepreneurs that I see online, particularly below a couple $1 million a year, which is most of the people that I work with, it's how do we infuse the personal brand into how you're showing up, and how do we make it so that someone can really feel connected to you through your online presence. And
Yeah.
of course, there's an art and science to doing that well. But when you do that, you decommoditize yourself. You become kind of like a class of one.
Yeah.
And you could be doing the same thing on the surface as a lot of other people, but the power and the magnetism of that personal intimacy and connection with you is ultimately what's going to draw people in. I'll often recommend that people create what's called a time log. And so on a weekly basis, you could basically sit down and every 15 minutes of your day, you write out like, what are you doing on an average day and where are you spending your time? And that exercise, I love that exercise. It's so illuminating every time I do it. And oftentimes the people I work with feel the same way because when you start to look at your time that way, you'll notice that there are all these things you're doing in your business. And some of those things are maybe like $1,000 an hour tasks. Like if you had to outsource them, you pay someone like $1,000 an hour to do it. Like sales is an example of that, like super high leverage stuff
Yeah.
or strategy work or leadership work. These are high leverage things in a business.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes you'll find entrepreneurs are wasting a bunch of time doing stuff like admin or very low level, low value tasks as well. And so
Yeah.
the game of growing a business is really about how do we focus on the higher leverage things. Entrepreneur, like they don't have time to focus on their personal brand. My argument would be it's one of the highest leverage things that you could possibly focus on in your business.
Yeah.
I mean, when I create a piece of content, and we have a podcast called The Jason Moss Show and a YouTube channel, and we invest like very heavily into creating content there. And I'm showing up every week and spending hours every week recording videos. I can spend an hour recording a piece of content and that video can be seen by thousands of people.
Yeah.
And not only does that create leverage in and of itself, but it makes my sales process a lot easier
Yeah.
because the more selling I can do through my marketing, if someone doesn't know who I am, and they get on a sales call with me, I might have to spend an hour on that first call, answering all their questions and building trust and rapport in a relationship. And then they might need a follow-up call. But if someone's been hanging out with me for 6 months, they've seen, 20, 30 of my videos. By the
Yeah.
time they get to the sales process, they don't even need a sales call half the time because the
Wow.
decision has been made before they get on the phone. So when you look at where to prioritize and how to spend your time
Wow.
as an entrepreneur, it's so easy to look at what you're doing right now and say, okay, well, I don't have time to focus on that. But it's the entrepreneurs who are able to focus on how do I do the things that are really leveraged in my business. And I think building a personal brand, showing up, creating content, all of these things, probably one of the most high value things that you possibly do when it comes to growing your business.
Wow. Jason, that is a knowledge bomb. The reason why I said that because you're talking about online and just kind of talking about the difference between online and our local stores like Target and all these different places. And what's so awesome about these places is individuals go there knowing what they're going to get. What you're saying to bring it out today is the part of this personal branding is, let's say Jason is the Walmart. They're getting to know the Walmart and what you have to offer. So when they show up, they're showing up to buy. I mean, I never went to Walmart and a salesperson meet me at the door and have to try to sell me on getting some washing powder. I mean, no, it doesn't happen. I already know what I'm going to Walmart for. So that's definitely expand on that thought.
It's been one of the most, if I look back, I've been building online business for 18 plus years now, but
Mm,
really, I mean, past
mm,
9 years have been like all in on this.
yeah,
And if there's one like smart move that I've made, it's showing up and creating content and building that presence. There've been so many amazing opportunities that I could never have possibly imagined that have come from that.
yeah,
But I think there are a couple of benefits that really stand out for me. Obviously, we talked about the fact that when you show up and you create a presence online, you do a lot more of your selling in your marketing. There's a couple things that happen. Number one, the people that come to you are they're warmer and you have to do a lot less heavy lifting in your sales process because you're doing a lot more upfront versus a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to drag people through their sales process, or they got a team that they got to hire. Like when I was a director of sales, we had like 5 salespeople on our team taking calls every day, trying to close people because arguably, like, I don't think our marketing was that good.
Mm,
So you end up having to make up for that on the back end and waste a bunch of time and resources and pay a bunch of people to do that. Or you create content and you create a presence that does that for you so that by the time people come to you, as you mentioned earlier with the Walmart example, it's like people, they're ready to go.
yeah.
The other thing is, I find when you do this, you attract people who have more aligned expectations because they've experienced more of you up
Mm,
front,
yeah.
which means your refund rate is going to be a lot lower. It means your clients are going to be happier. It means you're going to enjoy working with the people that you work with a lot more. Because when someone's been in my world for 6 months or a year
Mm,
and they've seen a bunch of my content, they've experienced me, when I start working with them, we already have a relationship and a connection that's been formed by all of
uh,
that content.
yeah.
So they're much more likely to have a good experience because they know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I'm much more likely to enjoy working with them because they're familiar with who I am and they're not just coming in seeing me as another commoditized business coach. And the other thing that's nice about this is that people tend to stick around for a lot longer because you attract people who are not just what I would call transactional buyers.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between transactional buyers. Transactional buyers just see you as a commodity. In other
Yeah.
words, you could look at like Costco and Sam's Club, and it's like, well, what's the difference?
Mm,
I mean, if I'm trying to buy a new patio set, I'd probably just go for the cheapest option,
yeah.
right? Because I don't feel particularly connected to Sam's Club because they don't have a personal brand and they don't have any of this. But if Sam's Club was like a personal brand and I felt really connected with Sam's Club
Mm,
and they had built that relationship and connection,
yeah.
I'd probably be much more likely to pay more.
Yeah.
And I'd also be much more likely to probably stick around and continue to buy again and again and again and not just be the person who buys once and then bounces.
Yeah.
So many entrepreneurs, I think the challenge is becoming more expensive to acquire new customers because ads are getting more expensive. People are more skeptical on the front end. So
Yeah.
trust is at an all-time low. So we spend so much time trying to figure out how to get new clients or sales and get people in the door in the first place, but almost no one's thinking about how to retain people.
Mm,
And it's like you can
yeah.
spend so much time trying to pump people in the front end of your business, or you can figure out how to make it so that the people who come in stick around.
Yeah.
And I think having a strong personal brand is one of the keys to being able to do that well. Because when someone chooses to work with me, they don't just see me as a commodity,
Yeah.
they feel connected to me on a human level.
Yeah.
And they're choosing to work with me not just because I can help them grow their business, but because we have a deeper human connection. And those people are the people who you not only enjoy working with much more, but they're much more likely to renew and keep buying from you again and again
Yeah.
and again.
Yeah. Jason, that is some great tips. I really love this. What are some of the mistakes individuals make when trying to build a personal brand?
I know they exist because
Yeah.
I've made pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
I think the first thing is really important. This is one of the biggest things that trips people up. It certainly has for me. Building a personal brand, growing and scaling any type of business, one of the biggest keys is being able to zoom out and to see things in a long-term perspective and lens. And one of the biggest things that I think trips people up is we tend to focus very, very narrowly on the short term in terms of how we make decisions, how we evaluate whether or not what we were doing was effective.
Uh,
If your expectation is you're going to just start posting content and you're going to get like a flood of people coming in next week, you're going to be disappointed. And so many people have this narrow view where either they expect things to happen really fast or we take a very transactional kind of if this then that mindset in terms of how
uh,
we think about this. So an example might be, if I post something on social media and that post doesn't land me a client, then that wasn't a good post. And I don't see it like that at all. I see this as a holistic ecosystem of, when you look at the journey that someone takes from stranger to sale in a business, there's so many touch points. It's just like any relationship. You think of your significant other, your
mm,
husband, your wife. I mean, my partner, Kimberly, we've been together for almost 5 years now. And, it was like we went on a first date, then that date didn't go anywhere. She would probably not be happy with me sharing this, but it just wasn't the right time. We didn't
yeah.
connect. Then a year later, we got together. We had another date and we kind of connected. And then it was the pandemic, and then things started happening more quickly. But if you look at the journey from where we are today, living together, very happy in this beautiful home in Colorado, versus strangers, there's so
Um,
many touch points. There's so many moments. And it wasn't like any one thing was the thing. It was that cumulative impact of all of those little things together. So I see content like that. I see content and marketing as relationship building. And I'm very much focused on the long game, which means my commitment is I'm going to show up, I'm going to be visible, I'm going to create value, I'm going to be generous, I'm going to serve others. And I'm not so concerned with measuring the impact of every single little piece of that
uh,
puzzle.
mm,
It's more so I know that if I just continue to show up, continue to help, continue to create and release valuable things that really help people, then the chips are going to fall where they may. And that's how I've been able to, generate a business that's doing, over $500,000 a year in sales. It's not by trying to measure and, take this very narrow short-term mindset with every
yeah.
single thing that I create.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And I think that's one that's hard for most people
Mm.
because we tend to struggle with that long-term
Yeah.
mindset. The funny thing about engagement too is it has very little correlation I've found with actual sales.
Uh,
Like the things that get the most likes are often never the things that are actually going to get you paid in a business. It's the
mm,
things that nobody, like I get very little engagement on a lot of my stuff, but I know the person who reaches out to me because I hear it from people. They're like, oh my God, I've been watching you for months. And like, they'll never
wow.
comment, they'll never
Uh,
engage.
but they watching.
So they're watching. I love this belief, and it's something I'll often remind my clients of. There's always more eyeballs on you than you think.
Mm,
Sometimes, especially in the early days, there's this tendency to be like, oh, no one's paying attention. But I'm like,
uh,
you'd be surprised how many
uh,
people are just quietly watching in the background, reading everything you share, watching all the YouTube videos, the podcasts.
uh,
We'll just never hear from them because you don't hear from 99%. I mean, when was the last time you left a comment on a YouTube video? I don't.
I don't. You're right. You're right. I
Most
mean,
people don't.
how often? So we're talking about online. So how often should you be posting? Let's say per day. How often should you be releasing content?
I'll share what it looks like for me, and this has evolved over time because I used to be very structured and regimented, and I
Yeah.
had a content calendar, and it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And we had an assistant who would schedule emails to go out at certain times, and everything was very regimented and blocked. And
Yeah.
what I found is I did that for a couple years, but it really started to feel like a prison for me,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I felt like I was just forcing myself to create. And it wasn't really about creating because I had something to say. It was more like, well, it's 9 a.m. on a Thursday and I got this time blocked down on my calendar. So that didn't really work for me. So what I do today is probably going to be quite different from what most people would recommend, because most of the advice out there is like you need to be consistent and you need to have a posting schedule and you need to time block out on your calendar, and that works for some people and other people it doesn't, and it doesn't particularly work for me. So what I
Yeah.
do is I don't have this like rigid schedule. I share when I have something to say.
Mm.
And sometimes that means I'm laying in bed at 9 o'clock at night and I'm like, ooh, I got this like nugget, this thing that just landed in my mind. I got to go grab my laptop and send an email out to my email list.
Yeah.
But there's a difference in the way that that content feels, because it's not creating content for the sake of creating content. It's actually I have a relationship with my audience. That's how I see it. And I share something when I'm excited to share it. And when it feels alive for me in the moment, that's when I know I need to create the thing or share the post. So that
Mm.
means that things are a little bit, they're not as quote unquote consistent in terms of like that there are set days and, a certain number of posts per day.
Yeah.
But the content itself feels very different because I'm actually not resenting it when I'm doing it. And I
Uh,
think a lot of people, I can certainly, when I look back on my content, because I created, my first six-figure coaching business, hundreds of YouTube videos. And I watch those videos today, and what I see is a guy who really didn't want to be there.
yeah. Huh.
And just because I was like recording 5 videos at once, it was like every other Friday, I had them time blocked out. And by the end, I was like sweating and I'm just like stressed out. I'm like, this is
Yeah.
terrible. And you can see it in the content.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, how much of my own magnetism was lost because I was creating a lot of stuff, but when you watch it, you're just like, ooh, this kind of just feels like I'm watching a guy who's stressed out and doesn't really, and so many people's content feels that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think a lot of it, when we talk about content, we talk about obviously like the words and what should it look like and all that, but there's also the energy behind it. And I
Mm.
think that's the unspoken thing that most people aren't talking about, noticing like how do you feel when you're actually creating? Are you
Yeah.
resenting this and just feeling like it's an obligation? How can you turn it into something that feels fun and feels exciting and feels like something that you want to do versus something that you have to do? I think that's a big key to unlocking magnetism so that what you do create is much more attractive.
When you're creating, do you focus more videos, words, and emails, or audio? Like, what's your thought on that, and how do you maneuver through those
They all
factors?
work.
Yeah.
I see it more like what is the easiest, simplest way that I can communicate the idea in a way that breaks down all the resistance.
Yeah.
So like my priority with content creation is ease and speed. A lot of people's priority is perfection, and that's not my priority because it's a volume game. Like you got to
Yeah.
create a lot of stuff. So I'm not so concerned about making it perfect. My priority is more like how can I get the idea out quickly and easily. So if
Uh,
I'm on a walk and I'm like, oh, I've got this great idea, boom, just dropped in. I'm just gonna pull out my phone and turn on the camera and record a quick little video in that moment
uh,
because that feels easy. And writing a post in that moment while I'm on the walk would probably not feel easy. But if
gotcha.
it's like 9 o'clock at night and I'm like in my boxers hanging out in my bed
Yeah.
before I go to bed, probably not the best moment for a video, but it'd be really easy to just grab my laptop and type something out. So I see
Yeah.
it more as like the medium is secondary to like how can I just express the idea in whatever the simplest, easiest, frictionless way is.
Yeah. I don't even know what my niche is. I don't even know where to start. I mean, what would you say to that individual?
Sometimes, I mean, there's different ways to get to clarity on that.
Mm.
And one way is you sit down and you think it through and you figure out exactly who you're here to serve and you fill out some niche worksheets and then you're clear and you go out there and you start creating content for those people. And sometimes that works. But oftentimes, what I find is you're kind of a little bit unsure and you feel like you're not even entirely sure who you're speaking to or what your
Mm.
message is. And what you do is you go out and you just start creating stuff. And then through that, process of being in collaboration with your audience and seeing what people respond to and seeing what people engage with and seeing what feels good to you, you get to clarity. And you figure out after maybe 6 months or 12 months of doing that what your niche is. So I think the best thing that people could do if they're not sure is to just go out and start creating. It's the same path. The clarity does not come through sitting in your office trying to brainstorm your way to a solution. It comes through being in communication with the world and that messy process of putting your half-baked thing out there, even when you're not sure. I think so much of entrepreneurship is about that. It's not about having clarity and then moving forward. It's the clarity comes through moving forward.
Yeah. Dave Ramsey said a quote that I love. He said, if you do what everyone else do, you get what everyone else get.
There you go.
And man, just definitely glad to Lead to Greatness audience. We're different. We're moving forward, and definitely, Jason, we're definitely excited and glad to have you on the Lead to Greatness podcast on today, dropping nuggets and dropping these gems, things for us to ponder on and think about. I mean, this is really good, especially, we're talking about the personal branding. You just kind of brought a thought, to the audience that we can, really ponder on this and look at personal branding in a totally different light, as if, what I said about going to Walmart, what you're going to get. It's not just selling, but really, just being there, being present and being there, and people will trust you and people will get what they need if they need it from you. So thank you for that. Jason, this was amazing. If someone wants to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
Yeah, you can go to jasonmoss.com, JASONMOSS.com. That's like our hub for everything. We got social media links there. Connect with me on Instagram, shoot me a message. I would say our YouTube channel too, and there's a link on the website. Or I have this podcast, The Jason Moss Show, which you can also check out. And we publish on YouTube as well. And we're publishing multiple episodes a week and just a ton of free, valuable content for established online business owners who are wanting to grow. Some really useful stuff there for you. So I would encourage you to check those out.
Yes, sir. Lead to Greatness. Be great. Go check him out and check out what he's doing. Check out the show and learn to get better in what we're doing every day in every aspect of our life. Jason, I want to leave this moment before we log off. If that's anything last minute, there's something just popping in your head right now that you want to share. Just a word of encouragement or something for the Lead to Greatness community. Go ahead and do so at this time.
What I would say is every day and in every moment, there's always a choice between faith and fear. And this is how I see running a business, growing a business, my life. And it's easy to choose fear. It's easy to look at the reality of where we are and AI and all these crazy shifts and changes and things that are happening and personal branding. You're like, whoa, this sounds overwhelming, intimidating. I'm afraid. And on the flip side, we have that shift into faith. And to me, it's seeing the world as good. It's seeing the opportunities. It's seeing the upside, the potential. And if there's anything I've learned through my own 20-year journey of entrepreneurship, through helping thousands of other business owners grow, it's that the most successful people I've ever met are the ones that are able to choose faith again and again and again. And it is a choice, because it's not a natural choice for us as human beings. The natural choice is fear. So what I would leave you with is how can you choose faith today? How can you choose to see opportunity today? How can you choose to see potential? And I think over the long run, that makes all the difference.
Knowledge bomb. Jason, thank you. This was great. On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so grateful I got to be here.
We want to thank you for joining us today on the Lead to Greatness podcast. So remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace.